Hello and welcome to today's European SharePoint Office 365 and Azure Community webinar. My name is Orla and I'm delighted to be joined by Graham Walsh from Neat in the UK, who'll be talking to you today about navigating Microsoft Teams devices for a hybrid workplace. Remember to join in the conversation about today's webinar on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EuropeanSP and our hashtag is ESPC22. Don't forget to check out the Resource Centre. This is updated daily with the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. Simply visit sharepointeurope.com and click the content link at the top. Continue your learning by joining our next webinar. Full details are available on sharepointeurope.com/register for webinars. This year, Microsoft Teams turns 5 and SharePoint turns 21. Celebrate the apps that you use every day by availing of our exclusive 26% birthday ticket sale. Simply book your ticket on our website, sharepointeurope.com, and get ready to join us in Copenhagen on November 28th for the return of ESPC 22. After the webinar, we will have a questions and answers session. Type any question you have in the questions window. Questions will be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and added to the Resource Centre, where you'll be notified by email when it's available. And now I'm going to pass you over to the presenter, Graham. Hello, Graham.
Thank you. So let's just share my presentation. So thank you for joining us this morning, and thank you for inviting me to present on your webinar series. So today I'm going to talk to you all about Microsoft Teams devices and how do we apply them in our hybrid workplace on what we're doing as we return to work or getting back to work or finding the new norm, what it might be. So a quick introduction about myself. So I've been in the IT industry, UC industry for over 25 years. It makes me feel old when I say that number, but it's something I'm very passionate about, and especially around the Microsoft side of things. Awarded a Microsoft MVP just over a year and a half ago, so extremely proud to have that. And post a lot on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, doing all sorts of videos, helping the community out and help understand some of the Microsoft terminology, should we say, and make things easy to use. About me, I've got 2 young boys, 2 young dogs, and thankfully only 1 fiance. But I also love things like Formula 1, cycling on my Peloton, and also house music. Love that all day long. Keeps me going and have it blaring all day when I'm working and not on meetings. So one of the things I want to talk about actually was a new report that Microsoft just released last month, and this is their work trend index report. So they do this yearly. It's over 150 pages long. It's a great resource to read about how Microsoft have asked people globally. So it's not just a US focus or European focus. It's actually a whole global report on how people are tackling the workplace. And if we look at the first slide of this report, and the link down the bottom there to go and get it to download from Microsoft. But if we look at it, this is a terminology that's been around for quite a long time. Work is something we do, not where we go. However, when we go to the office now, we want to be able to work. And we obviously need to ensure that we can work successfully. So when we have people at home, wherever they might be, in a coffee shop or in the workplace, we want to be able to ensure that we have a good, reliable platform that we can communicate on. We've been using Teams now solidly. As you mentioned in the opening there, 5 years old. Teams is 5 years old. It doesn't seem that old. It still seems like a new product. There's new features coming all the time. So it's always evolving. But what we need to make sure is, again, is that workplace is not outdated, and we want people to come to the workplace and use new technology, use the technology they've been used to with Microsoft Teams, and have all these features available to us. And that workspace may not be in the office. It might be a shared office or a co-working space now, which is a big trend of utilizing other offices. So you don't have to travel hundreds of miles. You can go to a local facility and be part of an office and community there. So the way we change, the way we work is changing a lot. So if we look at things like our home workspace. This could be a shelf on the wall where we have a small area that we call our office, where we break out from, and this is where we work from. So not all of us can have that luxury maybe of a dedicated office space. So we've got to think of how do we utilize the right devices in these right environments. And thankfully, Microsoft have a big ecosystem of partners and OEMs that are able to deliver devices for here. So if we start at this small area, for example, in the home office, whether it's a shared space or dedicated space, what we have from Microsoft is an array of different devices for this. So again, these can be used anywhere. So for example, when we take a headset, there's not just one headset or a style of headset. As you see here from a Jabra, we've got on-the-ear headsets, both sides. But then from Logitech, we have earbuds that you pop in your ear. And then there are other ones that are sit on ear or over ear. They're in earbuds, wireless, wired. There's single headsets. So if you like to hear what's happening around you as well, you could have that. Some have boom arm, some don't. So there's lots of different devices that can be utilized in these sort of spaces. So the thing is really, there isn't one size that fits all. And you might have 2 or 3 devices because you may not want to have a headset on all day. For me personally, they have my ears all day if I'm on call back to back. What I like to do is have a speaker puck sometimes. So, or a USB connected speaker device. And again, Microsoft have these available, certified from the likes of Poly, Jabra, Yealink, EPOS, Sennheiser. Being able to plug this into your laptop and then have a great call so you can have it hands-free. So if you're at home and the kids are at school, maybe you can be hands-free. Obviously, this wouldn't work if you're sitting in your favorite coffee shop. That's where a headset would come in and have that private conversation. So again, you may not just have one device. You might have a few, or your users might have a few. And they range from, $20 from the most basic headset right up to, $250 here for a medium-sized speaker puck. Because when you go back to the office, you might have an open workspace that you may want to have some calls with colleagues. So you can then get 2 uses out of this device. And one new area or space that we're seeing come up a lot now is these sort of focus rooms or huddle spaces. So whether they're a closed cube or in the second cube there, you see it's open plan as a table there, where people want to come together and collaborate, whether it's one-to-one or a few people together. But again, how do we enable these for voice and video so you can talk to people outside the office location, but again, successfully on, say, Microsoft Teams? So for these sort of dedicated spaces, you need to think, what features do you want? Do you want to just plug in your laptop and share it on a screen? Do you want to do some audio, or do you want to do some video in there, or a combination of all of the above? So within here, there are a number of options. So for example, at the top here, we have a Crestron device, and this is available in a number of different sizes of 8-inch and 10-inch displays, and it can also be a video-enabled device as well. And it can also be paired with a headset, for example, so you can have that private conversation, or you can see you've got the handset there, you can have that. So again, something like this could be wall mounted in one of these booths, so people can have a conversation, and you can see content on there, you can pinch to zoom, or you can go to the other extreme of having something on the next to it there, the audio codes Microsoft Teams phone, so a pure voice telephony device. So if you just want audio in some of these spaces, you can put native Microsoft Teams devices in there. And why do you want a native device? Well, you get all the rich features, being able to look at your contact list, see the pictures from people, do some reactions. So when we raise your hand, you may have a question. Some features such as start recording. So all these are available on the native Microsoft Teams devices. And there's even from Yealink have released a new device that's USB connected. So it tethers to your laptop, and you're able to just use the handset maybe for some privacy, and the keypad. So there's lots of different options available for these devices. And then in the middle at the bottom, we have the Lenovo ThinkSmart View, which is another category, I would say, up from. We have the desk phone to start with. We then have a video phone, and then we have what we call a Teams display. So this is a relatively new category. This has been the only device in here. since Microsoft launched, but announced at Ignite last year was some new devices from Neat and Yealink. So bigger format displays that will be available later on this year. So they're work in progress. So again, these are devices that can be used either in that home office, in that huddle space, in that exec space. So lots of different opportunities on where you want to place devices now. And again, if you're that real, telephony-centric organization and you want a lot of stuff, there's many different devices from Poly, Yealink, audio codes, etc., to have just pure telephony. So if you are having them, you're able to have a full, rich Microsoft Teams experience. The other thing is if you have an existing telephony, then obviously you can also use things like direct routing and then use SIP gateway. So you can carry on utilizing, say, your Cisco or your Poly VVX devices. So if you're not ready to replace the hardware yet, but you want dedicated telephony, then there's some new options now from Microsoft, such as that SIP gateway that could be configured and extend the life of that hardware. So if you're not ready to retire it yet and go full native Microsoft Teams, Microsoft have a way of doing that for you. And then we move on to the meeting room spaces. So what do we do in the meeting room space? And again, these are all shapes and sizes. So what Microsoft have done is categorize these into small and focus, which is where we see those smaller devices, such as video phones and Teams displays. And then we have meeting rooms for small, medium, large, and extra large. So within the meeting space for meeting rooms, there are a number of different manufacturers. I think 7 OEMs now that are in here. So Neat, Lenovo, Crestron, Dell have some hardware, Logitech, Yealink again. So audio codes as well have video devices now. So many different manufacturers to choose from. And again, different applications for different size rooms. So for example, as you see on the top right, you've got Lenovo, who have their soundbar, camera, and microphone pucks that sit on the desk, and then you have a compute module that usually sits behind the screen. In the middle at the top there, we have the newest entry from Neat, and that's just an all-in-one soundbar. The compute is built into it, and then you just have the touchpad on the tabletop. And again, with Crestron, you have that compute that sits behind the display usually, and then on the tabletop you have the speakerphone and touch panel all in one there as well. Then finally, we have the newest category. So the Teams rooms on Android, and it's a board format. So what does that mean? Well, it's a 65-inch display, all in one with that camera, mic and speakers along the top, and a 65-inch display. A full Microsoft Teams experience. And this is available from Neat is one flavor, and Yealink are bringing out their version later on this year too. Available as a tabletop trolley stand, as you see there, or available to be fixed to a wall as well. And probably one of the most common questions is, how does this compare to a Surface Hub? And, Surface Hub is I would say a collaboration device first, where you've got access to your OneDrive documents. You can, co-author Adobe PDFs maybe. You want to run a third-party whiteboard application such as Miro or Collabboard, etc. You can install all those applications on the Surface Hub. So it's a great tool, a great device for that use case. However, the board concept is it's a video-first device, but with collaboration added in too. And again, any of the other Microsoft Teams rooms that we see there can also be paired with a touchscreen as well. So if you already have a touchscreen in your meeting room environment, you can then pair that with your device too. So you don't have to rip and replace your screens. You could add a Microsoft Teams room and also make it touch enabled. So within the Microsoft Teams rooms, it uses the Microsoft Whiteboard, which is getting better over time. And actually just this week, it was announced that the external access is available. So when you are communicating cross tenants outside of your native tenant to a customer or partner or supplier, you can now both see the whiteboard during a call. That was always an issue. That has been fixed now, as long as you're storing your documents and whiteboards on OneDrive rather than SharePoint. So that was an update that Microsoft have just recently released. So with the board category of devices, it's really designed to walk up, have a meeting, join a call, but also be able to co-author and brainstorm all within the Microsoft whiteboard. So a great new addition and another use case on how to utilize devices and make it mobile around the office space. So you may not want to kit out a room with a fixed equipment like the other devices we see here. You may want to have 1 or 2 devices per floor maybe, and then users book them out and plug them in. It just requires a single power cord and it can connect to the Wi-Fi. So great for that small to medium room spaces for having instant video anywhere. And what about large auditoriums? Well, of course, we can put in Microsoft Teams rooms in any space, really. So again, integrator kits from people like Crestron are able to have all this technology available, where you have your native Microsoft Teams rooms, but fed into things like multiple projectors, installed audio. So we have partners such as Shure, QSC, Biamp are all certified audio manufacturers too. So as you see in the ceiling there are microphones that are dropped down. So this can be a full Microsoft Teams room certified experience as well. So it's not just the small, medium, standard offices. Microsoft Teams rooms can be put in any spaces like this, for example. And if you have handheld mics that go around the audience or catch boxes, they can all be plugged in through the certified DSP as well. So a full Microsoft experience can be used in any sort of space as well. And talking about use cases, when we look at the things, ideas of Surface hubs or boards, they can be placed in any area, whether it's showing information, live news, whatever it might be. When it's not in a call, you can then instantly access it for Microsoft Teams and jump on a call with your colleagues anywhere they might be. So again, a nice use case to go around there. One of the advantages of Surface Hub, for example, it has a battery pack as an option. So it can run on that battery, can connect to Wi-Fi. So it is really, truly mobile. With the things like the Neat board, that needs to be plugged in to a power socket, and then it can jump on the Wi-Fi. So slightly different use cases there if needed on the devices. One of the most recent announcements earlier this year that got released is this new concept of front row. So how do we see people better in the meeting spaces? So Microsoft have released this feature, and it's on the Windows devices first, and it will come to Android later on this year. So again, I'll talk about that in a minute, the differences between Windows and Android. But this is a layout choice. Do you want to see people, celebrity squares and see everyone on the screen? Or do you want to focus on some people that you may have spotlighted or pinned, for example, on the right-hand side, so the main speaker. Left-hand side, we can see the content being shared, and on the far left, we can see some people who have raised hands or some loop components that will be coming along here as well. And then on the far right-hand side, we can also see chat. So this is a new feature that has been introduced to the Microsoft Teams Rooms display now. Previously, we had chat bubbles. So up the top of the screen, we'd get a notification that Graham shared a link, and you'd see that, but it would flash and go away. But now with this front row layout, we can see it persistently in the chat on the front of room display. And then we get obviously the people video. So these are people who are connecting in remotely. We see them now individually down the bottom. So trying to keep that eye contact much better with the front of room and the audience. So again, like we've been used to on our Microsoft Teams client, we see everyone on video, or those that have their video on, we see it in each square. And now we can again do this in this front row layout, which is really nice. So one feature that will then expand from here is that we obviously see people in the room, and each person is on video. Some concepts Microsoft are looking at are that you're able to turn on your laptop video, but it won't be shown on the front of room display. You don't want to see yourself that you're in the meeting room, but you may want others to see you close up when you're talking or presenting on there. So a nice feature that is working on there, sort of that companion mode where you're in the room, but you won't show your video on the front of room display. Other things on here that are coming as well are things like that intelligent video capture. So being able to frame people individually and then send those individual streams into the call as well. So getting a closer view of everyone who's in the room, but also segmenting those people out into the call as well. So that's something else that will come as a software update to there. For example, on the camera technology, Yealink have camera trackers that follow people around and do group framing. Same at Crestron. And then Neat have a feature called Symmetry, which actually individually crops people out into the room and sends that as one stream to the Teams meeting. And then, as I mentioned, that will come to intelligent video and take those people out individually. So we'll see them on our Teams client as well. An interesting concept that came up this week was, do we need a standard table in the meeting space? And Greg, who's leading the charge on this front row design, one of the things they worked on in Microsoft was, do we actually need a rectangle or oblong table? One concept they have shown in the front row element is like a horseshoe. So bringing people together, 6-8 people around that element, so they're all focused on video. Sometimes that will obviously require making that room then dedicated to video. We did that years ago with things like telepresence, where people were, using that room just exclusively for video. Some manufacturers allowed it to be multi-purpose and have the table around the side as well. It all goes back to, the use cases and have you got that real estate to maybe dedicate a room for that sort of layout. One concept they were working on is this sort of idea that we have the ability to be more productive in this sort of triangular idea. Link in the article there at the top if you want to go and have a read of it. It's on Bloomberg's website. But this idea was, let the camera do the work. If you place yourself around the table, you can speak to each other quite easily, but also engage with the far end as well. So these are some of the options that Microsoft are thinking about on what's the best use case for the room. And again, it may not work for everyone on what style room they have set up. So as I mentioned, there are two variants of the Microsoft Teams rooms. One is the ability to have Windows, and the other one is to have Android. And the question is, which one should you choose? Probably there is no right answer. All the platforms are coming up to each other in terms of feature parity. That's something Microsoft are working on a lot of the time, is to bring the features that may be on Windows. So Windows has a history of devices. It's been around since the Link Room system, then the Skype Room system, and then the Microsoft Teams Room. So it's not a new platform at all. It's been around quite a while, so it's quite mature. And obviously lots of vendors have been using these Windows-based Microsoft Teams rooms for many years now. The Android category was released, I think, in Ignite 2019 or 2018 as a collaboration bar, so designed for small or those focus rooms that I showed you earlier. But then it expanded due to customer demand, saying, well, actually, we want to put Android everywhere. We used to appliances from our previous vendors, maybe for standard video conferencing, so we'd like to use that rather than Windows. So the category got renamed a while back to Microsoft Teams Rooms on Android. And then feature parity started coming up. So things like dual display, split screen, showing people on the screen at once. And then obviously things like the front row, we'll get that later on this year. Other features such as direct guest join access. So utilizing maybe a Zoom or WebEx, you can do that today on the Microsoft Teams Rooms on Windows platform. That will come to Microsoft Teams Rooms on Android. So you can see things are getting improved over time. But you'll have a use case for the Windows devices. For example, in that large auditorium, that is a perfect space for those custom installations. Having certified audio mixers that can be installed on Windows, such as Assure and Telemix. So that will work perfectly in that environment, but also having multi-camera support. So that's where Windows will excel. Just like the Surface Hub and say the Neat board, there are different use cases for each sort of space you require. So with the sort of Android platform, you look at those small focus rooms to medium rooms and even up to large rooms as the cameras get better and the audio technology gets better. And even Logitech have released what they call a roommate, which is a core compute based on Android. So it can then be used in a larger space with multiple mics and speakers and cameras connected to it. So there's a limit where you can go up to, and it all depends on your sort of room sizes and what platform you want to manage. Many customers are happy running and managing with Windows. Some organizations are happy with the Android devices. But but also then being able to manage it all through Teams Admin Center. So whether it's Windows, Android, Surface Hub, Teams Phone, Teams Panel. So that's one thing I didn't mention also is the Teams Panel is a device that can be put outside the room for room scheduling as well. So or even that booking space for that huddle space. So you're able to have room indication outside the room and have that space bookable. So lots of different options then for, coming back to work, having the right technology in the right meeting spaces. So being able to book space, walk up, sign in maybe if you want to bring your own identity, your own calendar, because you're working in that hot desk all day. These are all features that are on the Microsoft Teams rooms, for example, the Teams displays as well. Will be a new feature, hot desking, so I get all my personal details on there while I'm working on that space. And then for the rooms, they're obviously a shared resource, and people can then book them out through their Outlook calendar. And if you look at the recent announcements from Microsoft, being able to reply and say whether you're going to be on video or whether you're going to be in the office location. So lots of great features coming on how to handle this hybrid workspace and where people are going to be, because that's the other feature, is how many people can fit in the room. Is everyone turning up? Have you booked the right size room? So such as, intelligent cameras, they'll be able to do people counting and alert people that the room is over capacity. So by showing a banner at the top of the room saying, room at capacity, but that will also show outside the room as well. So making people aware that the room is busy, it's full, you need to go and find somewhere else or join from your desk. So lots of different options there, lots of great technology coming for the meeting spaces. And the good thing is it's not standing still. There's a full roadmap for the rest of this year and into next year on how devices get better over time. And a lot of it is through software updates. And again, if you're an organization that doesn't want to run, manage, or maintain the devices, you can obviously use your Microsoft partner, or Microsoft will have a Microsoft Teams Room Premium service as well. And what this allows you to do is let Microsoft manage and monitor all your devices for you, apply all the updates when it's appropriate, split down your rooms into executive, labs, etc. So the lab gets the update first, you test it, and then they roll it out to the executive devices, for example. So you don't get the update instantly, they manage that for you on their behalf. So that's fully supported for Windows today, and Android and Surface Hubs are coming in very soon as well. That's an additional fee that's on there, but Microsoft are also looking to make that more feature rich on the premium service too. But it's free to manage within the Teams Admin Center. But there's also now a Graph API. So if you want to build your own tools to interrogate the Admin Center, you can do that too as well. So that's the management element of things there. Very simple. And that is what I've got for today. That's a quick summary of what we have available with Microsoft Teams Rooms, the devices, lots of options, many different ways to design your room and put devices in there. Whether you want to be hands-on or you want to be, hands-off in terms of managing it, there's something there for everyone, and giving you that rich Microsoft Teams experience wherever you go around the office space now.
Thanks so much, Graham. That was great. Great presentation. Thank you. Now we'll have the questions and answers session. So if you have a question, please type it in the questions window and we'll read it out. There is a few there to get us started, so I'll ask those, but in the meantime, if you have another question, go ahead and type it in now. So the questions that came in, are Microsoft Teams devices available globally?
Indeed. So yeah, on my slides they were showing US dollar pricing. So Microsoft have that, Teams devices showcase, should we say, and it is global. They are actually adding this now to the Teams Admin Center as well. So that will start with the US and Canada first. So being able to see that in your Teams Admin Center. So if you are, let's say you're rolling out a blueprint and you're saying small rooms have X device, medium rooms have Y, focus rooms have this feature, and personal headsets are there, you can build up that catalog to help your organization have a consistent standard. In terms of device availability, that's down to each sort of manufacturer. Most of them will have the devices available globally. There may be some import regulations into certain countries such as Brazil or India that must come through a licensed Microsoft reseller, for example, or distributor. So yeah, all devices are available globally. They may have some different part codes, to get the right plugs, etc., when it's shipped. But yes, it's a global device showcase, should we say, that's on there for any Microsoft customer.
Okay, thank you. And just one more so far. When will Front Row be available?
So Front Row was released in, I think, January as a preview, and then I think March timeframe, the next release, it was sort of gone sort of general availability, and that's on the Microsoft Teams rooms on Windows. So it is available for your single or dual display, it doesn't matter. And there are some recommendations and some guides on, what format displays. Obviously, it'll work on your existing screens that are in your meeting room. So if you've got like a 50-inch display in there, or 250 inches, it will work fine on there. There are some guidance if you maybe want a short throw projection on Front Row to get that, widescreen. So like I have a widescreen monitor here, it looks great. Some people want that as well for that meeting room space. So there are some considerations there that you can go into a 32:9 layout if you want a great widescreen experience. So it's available there on Windows, and then it's not official on the roadmap just yet, but it's talked about that it will come later on this year for the Android devices. And one question actually many people ask is Front Row coming to my Teams client on my desktop? Well, for those of you that are using Teams, obviously on your desktop, you have that option to show gallery at top. So if you go into your three dots menu at the top, you can show the stage at the top instead. So if you want to focus, people up near your webcam, maybe that's the way of sort of achieving Front Row on your laptop client as well. So that you get your context down the side, you can see your raised hands, but then move the video up to the top rather than looking down all the time if they're at the bottom row. So again, you've got that layout switcher as well available in Teams, so you can go to together mode, for example, if you want. So lots of different options there on a desktop client to sort of try and mimic that Front Row. And again, if you're using two screens, something like pop-out content sharing will come as well, so you can segment video and content on your laptop as well if you're using two screens, for example. So not quite there, but it's sort of similar.
Thanks so much, Graham. Okay, I don't think there's any more questions. So on behalf of the ESPC community, thanks a million, Graham, for taking the time. We really appreciate it. And that is the end of today's webinar. Thanks, everybody. Take care and goodbye.